this war, instead of dragging their feet and not letting Ukraine do real damage against Russia. They should provide Ukraine with everything necessary to put down the Russian terrorist regime's military for good. However, of course, once again, we have this push and pull situation with the United States, where Zelensky is forced to go to the United States, continuously sweet talk Trump, and hope to find some reason in the whole situation. Very difficult to find reason when you are being taken for granted. But alas, my friends, here we are again. Now, we've heard a lot of conversations lately about the relations between the US and Venezuela in particular. Russia, in fact, has threatened that they would provide Oreshnik missiles to Venezuela if the United States provided Ukraine with Tomahawks, which is a very funny situation. Not only because Oreshnik is not nearly as effective and as important and as dangerous as the Tomahawk missiles, but also because that would kind of give Trump the perfect excuse to go into Venezuela. That's exactly why Venezuela said no, that they don't want to have any Oreshnik missiles. Go figure. But my friends, the truth of the matter is that the US should give full thumbs up for Ukraine to get Tomahawk missiles and to use them in any military targets in Russia. That should be the case, but it's not yet. It seems like every single time Putin calls Trump, he manages to put down the fires for Russia. He manages to calm Trump down and somehow convince him that for whatever reason, he should be trusted. Now, this is the really bizarre thing about the Russian terrorist regime. They continuously complain that they are mistreated, that they are not treated as equals on the world stage. But why should Russia be treated as an equal on the world stage if Russia continuously behaves as a criminal? Do you guys take seriously people, criminals, who would out of jail start screaming and shouting, "Why am I in jail? I only murdered 10 people"? Does anybody take those people seriously who claim such a thing? Of course not. They have committed a crime, they are in prison, as it should be. Now, Russia has committed countless crimes, and yet they continuously pretend to not understand why they're being treated differently to everybody else. What a joke! But alas, my friends, you know, just a short while ago, there has been a terrible attack in the United Kingdom. There's been a mass stabbing. 9 people are in the hospital in a difficult condition. It's a terrible situation, my friends. We are still hearing more about this situation in terms of who did it. Apparently 2 suspects have been apprehended. And I must say, you know, our full compassion goes to the British people and to the families of those who have been affected by this tragedy. And we believe that those who have committed it should face the full force of the law. They should be punished accordingly, my friends. There should be no mercy for individuals who go around train stabbing people in mass. Clearly, those individuals went around trying to kill as many people as possible, very clearly. Now, the motive is still unknown. We're still yet to hear about the precise motive. Although we got the suspects, we do not know why they did what they did. However, hopefully we will learn that soon, and hopefully they will release it to the public so that people do not start making dangerous speculations about this and that. As the saying goes, everybody pulls the blanket to themselves. And every ideology, every different group in this country, and any country in the world for that matter, will start pulling the blanket to their own side in this regard. Some will say, oh, it's the opposite political side. Some will say, oh, it's that religion. Some will say, oh, it's the ethnicity. They will blame many different things in this situation. But we need to hear from the police what the actual cause for this attack is. Some say it's a terror attack, some say it's not. We are still yet to hear about that. But once again, my friends, our hearts go out to the victims of this crime and to their families. Hopefully everybody survives. Hopefully everybody recovers fully. And hopefully those disgusting individuals who have committed this act are held accountable fully and completely and without mercy. Sometimes people say that in these situations where criminals commit a terrible crime, oh, you know, they deserve a second chance. My friends, there are some situations, there are some crimes that make this situation impossible. Some crimes make giving the criminal a second chance a complete impossibility. We believe in that. Russia does not deserve a second chance. Russia's had a second chance in the past. Russia's had countless chances, and they continuously squander those chances again and again and again. How many more chances must Russia get before we say no more, my friends? But the truth of the matter is, we must understand at this moment that the Russian terrorist regime plans to expand much further into Europe. And not only physically. You see, Russia is advancing against Ukraine. It's a physical war, it's a direct war. A war where the militaries of the two countries are facing each other. However, Russia is waging a different war at the same time, a hybrid war, an information war, or a disinformation war, if you prefer that term, against the free world, against this country, above all. You see, in World War II, there are many countries who claim credit for winning. The United States claim credit for winning. Russia claims credit for winning. But the country that should actually get the credit the most is this country, the United Kingdom. For it's the only country that remained opposing Nazi Germany and the Axis powers from the beginning of the war all the way till the end. And once again, let's not forget that there was a time of about 1 year where the United Kingdom stood alone against Nazi Germany, against the Axis powers, together as well with the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union was on the same side as the Nazis. They attacked Poland together. They split it in half. They provided the Nazis with every resource they would ever need to wage World War II. If it were not for the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany would never have become as powerful as they did later in the war. Now, not too long ago, I had a discussion with an acquaintance of mine about this situation. He said that we should be grateful to Russia. I found it a very bizarre thing for someone to say. Why should anybody be grateful to Russia for World War II? Let me ask you something, my friends. If somebody stabs you in the belly and then helps you patch up the wound so that you don't die, would you be grateful to that person? I know I wouldn't. Why stab me and then help me patch the wound? I may be crippled for life. I will be in a lot of pain. I will be hurt. And my life will be at risk. So why is it that there are some stupid individuals with misplaced gratitude towards Russia for World War II? Russia helped Nazi Germany in World War II. For 2 years, the Soviet Union sided with Nazi Germany. And then they only fought against them when they were attacked. Ideologically, they were in full and complete alignment. So why is it there are still misguided individuals who claim that there's some gratitude to Russia that we should have? No gratitude to Russia. None is deserved. They have done nothing worthy of gratitude by the Europeans or by anyone else in the world for that matter. My friends, let's not be foolish. Russia sees itself as the heir of the Soviet Union, as a continuation of the Soviet Union. Russia is thus responsible for the crimes of the Soviet Union as well. Crimes that they not only do not admit as such, but crimes that they are proud of, that they claim are their achievements. They're very proud of the Soviet Union, very proud of everything about it. But they never admit of how many people the Soviet Union killed. They never admit how many lives it ruined, how many countries it destroyed. Now, my friends, I spoke with someone from Finland not too long ago. These are different people. The two people I'm mentioning, different people, completely different people. This girl who I spoke to from Finland, she knew Russia very well. She knew what Russia is about. She knew it's a completely and utterly despicable terrorist regime. And she said something very interesting. We were talking about the region of Karelia that has been illegally annexed by the Russian terrorist regime in the winter war against Finland. She said that the areas that the Russians have occupied have been left to rot. So let's get this straight. Russia is the biggest country in the world. It continuously tries to expand. And the new land that they conquer, the new lands that they occupy, they let them rot. They let them get destroyed. They don't maintain them. They don't improve them. They just destroy them and leave them as such. My friends, something that only spreads and only destroys has a different name in medical terms. It's called cancer. The Russian terrorist regime is a cancer on this world. Their culture is rotten. And they will continue to spread for as long as they can until they are stopped once and for all. The Russian terrorist regime is a cancerous regime, and the world will never be able to move on to a better place for as long as Russia exists the way it does nowadays. There needs to be a complete collapse of the modern day Russian regime. There needs to be a deputinization of Russia. There needs to be a liberation of the territories that Russia illegally occupies. Of Karelia, that needs to go back to Finland. Of the Kuril Islands, that need to go back to Japan. And most importantly of all, of every single area that the Russian terrorist regime has occupied in Ukraine. Without this, Russia will never do what's the right thing. And my friends, above all, I invite you all to remember, there were many revolutions in Russia, countless. But not a single one of them has made real change for better. They simply swapped one dictator for another, one authoritarian ruler for another, one war criminal for another. It has always been this way in Russia. A country this rotten can never find its way as a civilized country. It never was and it never will be by itself unless real change is implemented and forced upon the Russian terrorist regime by the West, by the free world, by the civilized world. For there is no civilization in Russia. There's only the desire to take over the rest of the world and to level it, make it as bad as most of Russia is. You know, there's this saying in Russia, amongst the Russians themselves. It goes about feeding Moscow in St. Petersburg. If you ask any Russian, they will tell you this as well. Moscow and St. Petersburg are not Russia. These are the center of Russia. They are the zenith, where all the resources go. All the money goes to Moscow and St. Petersburg. And the rest of Russia is left to rot. And this is what will happen to every single country that whether chooses to join Russia or will be unable to keep Russia at bay. You know, my friends, sometimes the Polish and other countries in Eastern Europe, they get a bit of a funny look, a few funny looks from the rest of Europe. Why do you watch over your borders so carefully? My friends, it's very simple. Poland has a border with both Russia and Belarus. And Belarus is as good as a Russian region right now. What is Poland supposed to do? To leave itself open for invasion from the Russian terrorist regime, perhaps? No. No, Poland is doing the right thing by protecting its border from Russia. Poland is doing the right thing by protecting itself from future invasions by the Russian terrorist regime. And this is one of the most important messages of them all, my friends. There is no point, absolutely no point whatsoever, to speak to Russia, to ask them to stop, to ask them what they want, to negotiate with them. There's zero need in this. In fact, it's bad for everybody involved, except the Russian regime, of course. It's bad for everybody because all it does is it stalls for time. What's the point? Russia has proven many times, countless times, that they do not want to negotiate. They do not want to be friends with anyone. They do not want to commit themselves to any kind of agreement or concession. And if they will make an agreement, they will lie, and then they will lie again, saying that they were cheated. What a joke. Not too long ago, a couple of days ago, Lukashenko has released another deranged video. With his plump cheeks, he spewed out another disgusting message, like an open sewer through which filth flows out into the rest of the world. Lukashenko started screaming and shouting and talking about some sort of a threat for Belarus. And this is why he said that he's going to accept Oryeshnik missiles. Now, once again, my friends, first of all, Oryeshnik missiles are not really that powerful. They're not all that. These are not Tomahawks. This is not the most destructive missile available, even to Russia. Even Russia has better weapons. But they have overblown this idea because it's new. They want to claim, oh, Russia is developing new weapons. But they're really not. Oryeshnik itself is a prototype, to say the least. It's not something well developed and well tested. But secondly of all, it's truly interesting because nobody truly is threatening Belarus except Russia itself. Russia has troops inside of Belarus. They have countless soldiers in there. They attacked Ukraine from Belarus, one of the main front lines through which the Russian terrorist regime attacked Ukraine was from Belarus. Their logistics ran all throughout Belarus, my friends. Thank you. All throughout Belarus. So what are we left with in this situation, my friends? It's very simple. Belarus right now is a Russian colony, and Russia is a terrorist regime that will not stop until they have taken over every single place that cannot fight back against them. This is the real issue in Europe right now, my friends. An authoritarian regime spreading as much as it can, bribing politicians here in this country. I'm sure you've heard, my friends, not too long ago, there was a Reform UK MP for Wales caught accepting Russian bribes. He pled guilty in court, and hopefully the man faces justice. Severe consequences. For this, my friends, this is treason against the United Kingdom. To allow a foreign state, an enemy state, for just a little bit of change to buy off your allegiance and spread their message and say, oh, they're the good guys all of a sudden. Thank you. This is something truly despicable, my friends. We cannot allow people to spread Russian propaganda and get away scot-free. People need to be held accountable for this. He's not the only one. You see, the Russian terrorist regime not only supports politicians on the far right, but also on the far left. People like George Galloway have been shills for the Russian terrorist regime for a very long time now, and they will continue to be as such in the future. Orban, Fitzo, or wafflers like Tucker Carlson, not too long ago, once again, Tucker Carlson just had to speak about Russia. It wasn't enough for him to go to a French store in Russia, Auchan, and start fawning over the baked bread. Oh wow, how amazing. There's no baked bread in America. He was sniffing it as if it were cocaine. My friends, the man was paid a healthy check, like a fat check by the Russian terrorist regime. And he continuously spreads their misinformation. Not too long ago, he said that Putin is a very popular politician. No matter where you ask, people love Putin. Which planet is Tucker Carlson living on? Which planet, my friends? Because it certainly is not Earth. On this planet, Putin is widely recognized as a war criminal. Is widely recognized as the creator of this whole issue. He started this war, he escalated this war. The Russian terrorist regime did with Putin. And Putin sees himself as the Russian terrorist regime itself. He doesn't see Russia as their people, or their culture, or their language, or whatnot. For Putin, only himself, only he matters in Russia. And this is why, my friends, it's important to understand what we're dealing with, so that we stand together and stop the Russian terrorist regime once and for all. Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Fight the jets for Ukraine.
Fight the jets for Ukraine!
Fight the jets for Ukraine.
Fight the jets for Ukraine!
Fight the jets for Ukraine.
Fight the jets for Ukraine!
Air defense for Ukraine.
Air defense for Ukraine!
Air defense for Ukraine.
Defense for Ukraine!
Air defense for Ukraine.
Air defense for Ukraine!
Long-range missiles for Ukraine.
Long-range missiles for Ukraine!
Long-range missiles for Ukraine.
Long-range missiles for Ukraine!
Long-range missiles for Ukraine.
Long-range missiles for Ukraine!
Let Ukraine strike back.
Let Ukraine strike back!
Let Ukraine strike back.
Let Ukraine strike back!
Let Ukraine strike back.
Let Ukraine strike back!
More sanctions on Russia.
More sanctions on Russia!
More sanctions on Russia.
More sanctions on Russia!
More sanctions on Russia.
More sanctions on Russia!
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets!
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets!
Seize Russian assets.
Seize Russian assets!
No trade with Russia.
No trade with Russia!
No trade with Russia.
No trade with Russia!
No trade with Russia.
No trade with Russia!
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals!
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals!
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals!
Thank you, my friend. Now, once again, my friends, this is one of our two main messages here at 10 Downing Street. To know our enemy and to know our friends. To know those who stand side by side with us against the common enemy, against Russia. It's very important. And to know the enemy, to know the Russian terrorist regime in detail is also very important. Because if we do not, we don't know what to expect. We don't know what we're fighting against. And that is a recipe for defeat and disaster. We must not go that way. We must choose wisely. We must establish good connections with the countries that are friendly to the United Kingdom and to the West. France, Germany, and many other European countries. They are close allies of the United Kingdom. But there are other countries that may claim to be friends, may claim to be allies, but in reality will only use the UK for their own personal benefit. And And we must be careful with that. We must be very careful with this double think of the Russian terrorist regime, where on one hand they go out and speak with shills and Russophiles like Tucker Carlson, and they tell them, no, we have nothing against the West, we love the West. But then on their own media, to their own people, they scream and shout and foam at their mouth, saying that we will nuke London, we will nuke Berlin, we will nuke Washington. And they say this freely. They say this day and night. Not once, not twice, not thrice. Regularly. They do it all the time. My friends, people need to know how much Russia despises this country and how much Russia is willing to go through to give the United Kingdom even the slightest bit of pain as they can. They hire people to commit arson here in the United Kingdom. They hire people to kidnap others, to kidnap people who criticize Russia, to kidnap people who criticize Russian puppets within this country. They will continue to do that, my friends. And there have been many assassinations committed on British soil as well. One of the worst ones, my friends, was the assassination of Litvinenko, a world-known critic of the Russian terrorist regime, an ex-FSB agent who has revealed the ways the FSB acts and what it does in the rest of the world. He has revealed the fact that it was the FSB who was blowing up Russian neighborhoods, so that then they would say it was the Chechens, so that then they would destroy Chechnya. He revealed it, and that's proof to what he said. And that's why the Russian terrorist regime despised him. They killed him here on British soil. They gave him some poison tea, cold tea with Novichok. And this is what they do on a regular basis, my friends. Not that long ago, I believe it was about a year ago, they attempted to assassinate the CEO of Rheinmetall in Germany. This is one of the biggest cases of important people that Russia tries to assassinate. I mean, what is next? Are we going to wait for Russia to feel emboldened enough to assassinate British politicians in broad daylight? Is that what we are waiting for? To declare the Russian terrorist regime as a terrorist regime as they are? No, my friends. It is necessary for us to always remember what Russia has done, and to always remember that this country has stood on the right side of history in the past, and it will do it again. Just like it won in World War II. This country will endure. We believe in that very strongly, and we will do what we can to help it. Now, my friends, in the name of those heroes of the past and in the name of the heroes of the present, the Ukrainian heroes who are repeating the great deeds of those who fought against Nazis in World War II, I invite you all to observe a minute of silence. Thank you. I remind you all, my friends, that our rallies happen here on 10 Downing Street on Wednesdays at 6 and on Sundays at 3 o'clock. For those who want to join us, please feel free to do as such and add your voice to ours. And for those who would like to ask a question and participate in some way, feel free to do that as well. For in this country there is freedom of speech, unlike in Russia. You know, not too long ago there was this young girl, an 18-year-old girl, who was put in jail in Russia. Oh, you think so? Why? Why though? Oh, he doesn't know why. Oh, poor thing. What a smiley individual. It's good that he's so smiley. Oh, I love these people. You know, you ask them why Putin, why Russia? No answer, no reason. They just decide they want to believe in what they believe, alas. But we will continue, my friends. Sometimes people do stop, and sometimes people speak with us. Usually they stop to give us support, to say you're doing a good job, or to show their own support. Sometimes they stop over there with these lovely ladies in our tent to get a badge or a t-shirt. I got all of those t-shirts myself. They're very nice, my friends. They're very nice t-shirts. Other times, occasionally, very rarely, we get people who both support the Russian terrorist regime and are bold or drunk enough to actually talk about it in the open. It's a rare occasion that a Russophile will find the courage to actually speak up for Putin. Very rare occasion, but sometimes it does matter. It does happen sometimes, excuse me. When it happens, my friends, I like to ask him a very simple question. Whose side did the Soviet Union start World War II on? For Russia continuously supports what the Soviet Union did. They said, oh, the Soviet Union fought against fascism, fought against Nazis, it beat the Nazis, right? Wrong! The Soviet Union started World War II on the same side as the Nazis. For 2 years, they were fighting on the same side as the Nazis. For 2 years, they were providing Hitler's war machine with everything it needed to commit his own war of genocide. 2 years, my friends. It's about 1/3 of the whole war. But no, because later on the Soviet Union was attacked and fought against the Nazis as well. For some reason, some people with goldfish memory decide to think that the Soviet Union was the good guy in World War II. It was not. It was never the good guy. Even when they fought against the Nazis, the Soviets were still not the good guy. They just happened to be on the side of good at that point. But they were not the good guys. They raped, pillaged, and exterminated their way all the way to Berlin. They raped every woman in Berlin when they reached the city. The Germans were fleeing the Soviet-controlled side just so they would not be raped or murdered by the Soviet scum. Is that, my friends, is that the action of a good guy? And let's not start this stupid conversation about, oh, it was rightful revenge for what they went through. Before World War II began, the Soviets committed their own genocide before the beginning of the war. They exterminated millions of Ukrainians via mass man-made starvation in an act called the Holodomor. But of course, Russia never talks about this. Alas, they will never talk about the things in which they are to blame. And that's why we are here. That's why we hope that people will learn more about the situation. Because we wish the same fate to no one. We wish no one in this war, in this whole world, to go through the same problems Ukraine is going through right now. That's why we inform people, we tell people what's going on so that they will know better. Better than to expect the Russian terrorist regime to be friendly, to be kind, to be brotherly, and to be just. We hope people will know better. For that future is coming, my friends. A future of confrontation. It will come unless the world helps Ukraine win. Slava Ukraini! Слава нації! Україна! 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 Героям України тричі! Ворогам України тричі! And now, my friends, we're going to have a short musical break.